Now, all the stuff that happened with Andy in this episode was kind of heartbreaking. I mean, from the beginning, he sold his soul to Moloch, and we knew it was doomsday for him for a long time. But watching him again in this episode, having to go through so much just to we all we've known for a while that he's had all these feelings for Abby, and he pretty much lays it out on the line with her in this one and tells her that he's really the only one who's really loved her all these years, and she should trust him. And it was just to see him again go through like another transformation and become like another demon type person, and even again threaten to kill Abby in this episode, and then her finally having to kill him. Oh, it was just kind of heartbreaking. And I just, I'm kind of glad it's all over for him, because he's just been through enough. And you could tell that he was really struggling because he wanted to do the right thing, but he just couldn't. It was too late. He already sold his soul, and what was done was done. And he'd already been going down this path. So it was only going to end in one way, with his death. So now that he, I believe, is gone, because we saw the whole tomb basically implode in on him, I'm assuming that that chapter is over and done with. But that being said, he brought a lot to this series, and I'm glad that he was a constant thread throughout it, and it just felt right. It felt like he did care for Abby, and it felt like, he being the voice of Moloch just advanced the story even more. So I really enjoyed him in this episode, and I enjoyed him throughout the series, and he'll be missed. Now, the Sin Eater. So of course he returns in part 1, and he's helping Abby and Ichabod, and he's giving them all these clues and things like that they need to be careful of if they go into purgatory, and what will happen to them, and all this stuff, and he's helping them find this map, and we're all just like liking the three of them, like working together, and it all feels right. It feels like, this is the way it's supposed to happen. And when they finally find this map, and at the end, Ichabod again says to Abby, you are the one that I'm choosing to work with, and I'm putting all of my trust in you, and I'm trusting that we are going to find a way to find Katrina. And he burns the map. We're all kind of like, okay, well, good. You trust each other. Perfect. But in that moment, I knew what was going to happen. I knew he was going to redraw the map, because like he has said many times, he has a photographic memory. So when he did it at the end, I wasn't really surprised, but I did like how it ended. And it kind of ended on a way where it felt like he, as much as honest as Ichabod has been throughout this whole series, and as honest as he's been to Abby, that, his sole purpose is to find his wife and to work with her as witnesses, that he still would kind of go rogue and do his own thing. And that sort of introduced an interesting thread that, at the end of the day, he could be selfish and do what he wants for himself. So I was kind of like, all right, here we go. So it ends, of course, with him redrawing the map, and it looks like, of course, he'll be able to find his wife after all. So now we go into part 2, and it turns out that the Sin Eater had a nightmare or a dream, and he believes that the end of days is coming today, and that there's of course going to be an eclipse, and everything is going to link in today. And this just so happens to be the anniversary of the day when Abby and her sister Jenny saw the white trees in the forest, and that's when all hell broke loose in their life. So of course this day is extremely significant, and this is the day where we believe that the apocalypse is starting. And so with this, he, the Sin Eater runs to tell Abby and Ichabod what his dream was and what he saw. And of course, these are all visions that they've seen before. They've seen the white trees. They've seen like the rising of someone coming out of the ground, all this blah, 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 blah. So they believe that this is the day. So all the jokes, I mean, guys, the humor in this show is perfect. And there was a lot again in the second episode, and a lot with Jenny, and all the the little cute witty banter that they have going back and forth was awesome. And it played out seamlessly in this episode as well. So of course, with Ichabod and Abby knowing now that the end of days is coming, we find out that Katrina, as a witch, can do a spell that will prevent the second horseman from coming out of the ground. So now, of course, it's a good thing that Ichabod drew that map. And so he tells Abby, and of course, Abby's pissed. And she's like, so you lied to me. He's like, no, it was a half-truth. She's like, a half-truth is a lie. So, they had their first little spat, which was kind of cute. But, of course, they got over it in 2 seconds. And so, of course, they're going to come up with this plan of how they're going to get Katrina out of purgatory. And Jenny's going to be sifting through some audio tapes and to figure out who the chief was meeting with. And back because basically the priest, whose name was Knapp, him and Chief Corbin, if you remember back in the very first episode, they knew each other. And they even had a moment when, in the very first scene, when Abby and Corbin are eating apple pie together, when they get up to leave, they give each other this nod. And you can tell in that moment that they know each other, that there's obviously secrets that the two of them had between one another. So I like that played out again in them realizing that they knew each other and that they were working together, and all that kind of stuff plays a part going forwards. And of course that stuff all had to do with what happened in part 1 of part 2. But I just liked how everything still ties into one another on this show. It's just great. And that just goes to show that the writers and the creators had the plan from the beginning, which is brilliant, okay? So anyways, now we know that Katrina is the one that they have to get. So they find out that there's a way that they can open the doorway to purgatory, which is sort of like a gateway between both worlds. And the Sin Eater is telling them, Henry Parrish, is telling them that you have to be careful because there will be many temptations that will try to separate the two of you, but you guys have to remain tight as one. And, so when they're in purgatory, of course, Abby, her warm favorite moments have to do with Sheriff Corbin. Because let's face it, Corbin has been like a father to her. And he's also played a big part in Jenny's life too, but she didn't even realize that. And so her warm and fuzzy moment ends up being with Corbin and Andy. And it's a great scene because she thinks she's injured herself and she's come back from being away at the academy, which is where she was supposed to go in episode 1 if all hell didn't break loose in Sleepy Hollow. And so she has this really great scene with Corbin, and she hugs him and she touches his face like it was just well done. It just, again, the attention to detail that this show has played through from the beginning to now is great, because you get the sense that he is her happy place. He is the one person who has been like a father to her, and it was a great, moment for them to have. But then, boom, obviously she realizes this isn't real. this can't be real. And then, of course, Ichabod's moment is with his father. And when his father originally found out that he had basically abandoned his his post and had jumped ship from the British, he had abandoned him and he had basically written him off as his son and denounced him and everything. So in his dream, or in his vision, his father was like, "Oh, welcome home, son. You're my pride and joy, and I would never turn my back on you, and I love you dearly," and da-da-da-da-da. And so his dream is so what he wishes his relationship with his father would be, but it is not. So boom, he wakes up. So now they realize that they're that this is like the part where they're trying to be pulled apart, and they both get out and they find each other. And it's a really great moment because, they realize that the link and the bond between the two of them is so great that they were able to get back to one another. And any other show, I think that this would be super cheesy. I really do. Oh, I knew that this was not right because but this show has just made it work. I don't know how. I really don't, because this honestly should not be working as good as it is, but they figured out a way to make it work, and it's just working brilliantly. So anyways, they're in purgatory now, and they're trying to find Katrina. So they go to this church, they find her, and Katrina's like, "What you doing here?" And they're like, "We're here to take you home." She's like, "Well, I can't leave until I've been forgiven basically my sins have been forgiven," or something like that. And they're like, "Well, too bad, we're taking you home." And she's like, "There is a way that I can leave." And they're like, "What is it?" And of course, she's like, "I can leave as long as somebody stays in my place." So of course, who's that going to be? Abby. And she's not like, oh no, I'm not staying. But she's like, oh, I'm staying because I want to face Moloch. I'm done with this running and hiding and blah, 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 blah. I want to face this man and be done with it. So it's kind of like, that's right, girl. Although I'm like, crazy. But it was still a great moment. And so she basically ends up staying. And Ichabod, and her have another great scene where he's like, I'm going to come right back for you as soon as we get out of here. And Katrina is able to put the spell so that, the horseman cannot rise. And I'm coming right back for you. And she's like, oh, I know you are. And boom, they leave. So they come out. And of course, the Sin Eater, Harry Parrish, is still there. Jenny's been off trying to figure out, what these tapes mean. And she has found out what's going on. And now she's on her way back to try to stop whatever's been going on. But, of course, somebody shoots out the glass on her car. And her car rolls over. And that's that. And right before it happens, she's leaving a message for Abby. And she's basically saying this... Basically, the sign that we're looking for is actually a sign, which is Saint Henry Parrish. And of course, what this means, what am I saying? Of course, what this means. Listen, when this reveal happened, I was like, what? So remember like 5 or 6 episodes ago when we found out that Ichabod had a son named Jeremy and he had a golem, which was his protector, and then he was buried alive and left for dead. Well, it turns out that Moloch had found him and rose him from the grave, and he is now alive and well, and he is Henry Parrish. That's right, people. The Sin Eater is AKA Jeremy, which means Katrina and Ichabod's son. My mind was like, what? It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And his retelling of everything. So now we got a lot of exposition and we get a lot of, Henry Parrish retelling how foolish Ichabod has been this whole time and how much he's basically been telling him not to trust anything that I've been saying to you. And that is exactly what they've been doing. And everything that he has done has led to this moment. So all the stuff that he's been helping them out with has been to pull the red herring, and that this is the moment that he has been waiting for. So he has the two of them strapped up to two of the 4 white trees. He's basically laying it out to them. He's a pissed off old man who's been buried for over 2 centuries. And he is running the show now. He has been raised by Moloch. And now he is doing Moloch's dirty work, basically. And he is like the symbol of war. Like he represents war. Oh my God. My mind. So Abby is in purgatory in some dollhouse, which let me get back to that story. Here's another great thing about the show. I'm telling you guys, the show is just great. We have this scene between Abby and Jenny, and it's basically like their goodbye scene. And it's so poignant and brilliant, and it means so much because, again, they've spent so much time in these last 12 episodes building up the relationship between the two of them. And 2 episodes ago, we really got a good sense of not closure, but we got a great sense of why the two of them had been so separated throughout most of their childhood. And it was because Jenny was trying to protect her sister because she thought she was going to kill her, which was because she was possessed and she was told that that was what her legacy was basically going to be. So in the scene, they're basically referencing this dollhouse that they found behind their home. And because they had such a dysfunctional childhood and a dysfunctional home themselves, they used to pretend that the dollhouse was their safe place. And this was like what they dreamed that their life would be like if they just lived in this beautiful dollhouse. So now Abby is stuck in purgatory in this dollhouse, which I thought was brilliant because that is the safe place that they have created for themselves in purgatory. So she's there, and the sisters are retelling the story to her, and now she's getting her memories back as to what happened that day in the woods when her and her sister lost time. And it turns out that when they saw Moloch rising, they did not realize that the person that also rose out of the ground was Jeremy, aka Henry Parrish, aka the Sin Eater. Guys, I mean, just awesome. So now, within like 10 minutes left of the show, my mouth is like, and you're hearing all this craziness. And then he basically says, he pretty much hollers to the horseman, who is, of course, Abraham, which was Ichabod's best friend, to come hither. So he comes strolling on his little horse, and he takes Katrina. Oh, my word. So Katrina's gone with the headless horseman. Henry, a.k.a. Jeremy, has now put Ichabod in the ground where he was for 200 centuries. He's wrapped up in some vines. He put the lid on the coffin. First he broke... he broke like this medallion that was pretty much what was going to help stop the war from happening. He breaks it and basically says, "See you, Dad." What? The coffin closes, cut to black, that's the end. Seriously? So we have Abby in purgatory, we have Ichabod underground, we have Katrina off with the headless horseman, we've got Irving in jail for confessing to a crime that he didn't do, and Jenny upside down in a cart in the middle of the freeway. 8 months? Really? I have to wait 8 months to find out what is going to happen in season 2? Oh my God. Guys, this show has been such a surprise for me, and I loved every second of it. I cannot wait for season 2 to roll around. I don't know how much more I can say, but this episode was great. Good job to all the people at Sleepy Hollow. I was blown away. Everything worked. Like the humor, the chemistry, the storytelling, the character-driven, everything that was with all the characters in these last 2 episodes. All of the beast stuff, like the crazy stuff with the wardrobes and the makeup and the special effects. I mean, just you outdid yourself. I can't believe it. Guys, 2 thumbs up. Can't wait to see you next season. That's it. I'm done. Bye.